double X chromosome. Super killer theme song. CK Discord is probably what the team on. I need to send Miss Tiff a whole box of Tiff treats. And everybody muted up with you about to speak. Clearly knowing how to read. Educational indeed. Plus the easy on the eyes. All the women wearing queens. The pseudo dies and I hope you know just what that means. Still when I was short and still, the women run the guillotine. See Dr. Mahat, one of the best, cream of the crop. Slander her name, you really should stop. Might get you dropped. Yes sir, Dr. Mahat, one of the best, cream of the crop. Slander her name, I think you should stop. Might get you dropped. This that double X chromosome, super killer theme song. CK Discord is probably what the team on. I need to send Miss Tiff a whole box of Tiff treats. And everybody muted up with Juju about to speak. This that double X chromosome, super killer theme song. CK Discord is probably what the team on. I need to send Miss Tiff a whole box of Tiff treats. And everybody muted up with Juju about to speak. So we gon' lie this sauce. So we gon' lie this sauce. So we gon' lie this sauce. So we gon' lie this sauce.
That's it. I always miss that every time.
I love that heart that you do.
Right? It's just like I gotta get it right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't.
Art is creative.
Yeah.
It's good.
But what up? We here.
Yay, for the ladies.
Last day of Women's History Month, and go ahead, Miss Tiff. It's all on you.
It's all on me. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all on us. Thank you
All
all.
on us. Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us today, March 31st, 2024. And the ladies of the PK, we wanted to do something special to just kind of capstone Women's History Month. And this is our second show dealing specifically with women's concerns or issues or historical facts. And it's good to have my sister Juju here. The last time it was myself, CK, and my girlfriend Danielle, who is actually in the chat today. So depending on how the ending goes, we can maybe, bring her up and do all of that. So welcome, Miss Valencia Bennett. Hey, you want to say something?
Hey, I'm a little nervous. I get nervous when I get on the panel.
And what inspires you here today? She's also part of our PK Army in the Discord server.
Yeah. But it's the struggle that women have to go through in life. And particularly, I had looked at Maya Angelou and Moms Mabley because they had a beautiful story. But I inspire people to look at stuff. I'm telling you, people, go out there and look at these Black women, and I'm telling you, there's so many things in the depths of what they had to go through. But that's me.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna say the best for last. Let me go to Tiffany French. It's good to have you. Have you ever been on a PK panel before? Is this your first time?
This is my first time being on the panel.
Wow, this is like an inaugural.
But I have been in the chat and stuff, but I ain't really been on the panel. Like this is my first time.
Okay, so welcome on your first PK panel. And what inspires you to be here today in celebration of women?
Women history is very important, you know what I'm saying? Because it's important that we look at, the women that came before us and the women that's after us, you know what I'm saying? The women that's keeping the struggle alive. So real quick, my inspiration is Sister Soldier. She's the reason why I'm in the level of where I'm at as far as consciousness and knowledge is concerned. Sister Soldier was my inspiration. And there's a list. Also, my most important inspiration was my mother, who is an ancestor. She transitioned in 2017, and also my grandmother. who transitioned in 2012. So those women, brought inspiration to my life as far as just the fact that my mother brought me into this world, and the fact that my grandmother instilled wisdom in me that kept me grounded and disciplined. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say my little thing before I pass it off to my lady PK official, my how do you say, my fellow lady PK official. So I'm inspired to be here because I think it's always important to continue this conversation about women's concerns, women's history, where we are, what the state of women is today, and what the future of women looks like tomorrow. And we here at PK we have a broad brush in that we don't necessarily just focus in the black space, so to speak, although that is a primary and priority for us. So we'll look at this from the perspective of the global movement of womanhood and women's history and the state of women of the world. So I'm just happy to be here to continue the conversation, and I'm going to pass it over to my sister in crime.
Always, right?
And help me, keep things going smooth. And
we run.
right, it's an honor to work with you, Sister Juju.
Thank you.
Thank you for your inspiration and your wisdom and the things that you bring to the table. So now you got to tell us what inspires you about this whole topic and why we're here today. And then go ahead and get into the first part of today's presentation.
Absolutely. But first, I want to say, my dear sister, Miss Tiffany, the Black Widow, the number one lady killer, I got to put you in that spot. That feeling of respect and admiration is mutual. So you bring so much to the table, and I don't think that people really know how much you do in the background. And I always tell people every time they talk about you're a leader, I'm like, leader? Me and Miss Tiffany run that. But no, I just got to give you your praise and your respect. So let's go back to the last time we had a show like this. Well, we did, but I choose to sit on the sideline, right? Because of my somewhat disdain for the feminism word. And not the definition. And that's why I preface that. But you, CK, and Danielle did a phenomenal show. And then y'all caught a lot of unnecessary heat for it. And it was wild because I'm thinking, wow, we in the 2000s, 2023. Now it's 2024. And we still have this type of sentiment. So I took it upon myself to do better, right? To really go in, to really re-examine the history. But I think I've been very clear. I definitely subscribe to the definition of feminism. I also understand the implication of womanism and why that needed to be established. And as Kimberly Crenshaw brought it out, the intersectionality. And so I thought it was important to frame all of those things in this show. Not only is it Women's History Month, but we have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And I'm saying that because of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. So before I get into Women's History Month, I was just going to read a piece that surmises all of it. My inspiration, and as many of you have heard me say her name a million times, I call her Aunt Mildred. Her name is Mildred B. White, and she is my aunt. And the reason why I say that is it's personal, but it's also because she has been the epitome of what a woman should be, of beauty, of class, in the era of segregation. She was a teacher, and she has been able throughout her life to appeal to everyone, white, black, everyone. She also became Teacher of the Year here in Florida one year. And to this day, at 81 years old, she is a staunch supporter and advocate, and she is, how shall I say, engaged in local politics. She sits on block grant boards. She does it all. She knows the mayor, she knows the chief of police, and anything that happens within this community of New Smyrna Beach, Florida, she is involved. And it's not necessarily so much about just Black people, though that is her focus, but it's about the upliftment, the advancement of people in the community, period. So yeah, Mildred is definitely my inspiration. So real quick, I'm gonna give you the little piece, and how we wanted to pretty much frame this show is just give you a little bit of the history, and then Miss Tiffany is gonna sum it up with where we're at presently to where we need to go. And before I do go on, I want to say shout out to Scarab Chronicles. That's Gina A. And you're not here today. I wish she was on the panel with us, but I absolutely understand. But I just want to say thank you to her, because her contribution to this show was absolutely phenomenal and we loved it. So we just want to give her flowers, as helping to produce and organize this show with her contribution. So Women's History Month has its roles in International Women's Day, which was first observed in the early 20th century and gained momentum in the women's rights movements of the 1960s and 70s. In 1978, the Education Task Force of Sonoma County, California Commission on the Status of Women initiated a Women's History Week celebration during the week of March 8th, which was later expanded to a month-long observance. The birth of feminism itself can be traced back to various historical moments, but it gained significant momentum during the 19th century and early 20th century with the first wave of feminism. And just to let you all know, I believe we're up to our fourth wave as we speak. This movement focused primarily on securing women's rights to vote initially, also known as women's suffrage, and address issues such as property rights, reproductive rights, and gender inequality in education and employment. Womanism emerged as a term and movement primarily within the African American communities in the late 20th century, particularly in response to the limitations of mainstream feminism in addressing the intersecting oppressions faced by women of color, coined by writer and activist Alice Walker. And I will add, it was solidified and properly defined by Kimberly Crenshaw. Womanism emphasizes the experiences and struggles of Black women and other women of color, highlighting the importance of race, class, and other intersecting identities in understanding and addressing gender-based oppression. Both feminism and womanism continue to evolve and intersect with other social justice movements advocating for gender equality, women's rights, and the empowerment of all individuals, regardless of gender, race, or background. I love that. So that's just giving me a brief synopsis. So I was going to go over a brief history of all this. How do we get to feminism? How did it transition to womanism? What are all these phases? So I don't know if people really know, but just as everything, I was talking to Miss Tiffany about this, like Black people, African-American, Black Americans, however you label yourself, are always in the center of political movements, especially when it comes to the United States in its early days too. So abolition movement, or the movement to end slavery for enslaved Africans, enslaved African Americans, because as time moved on, they're born on this land, they're African Americans, gave rise to the women's rights movement or feminist movement, because those same epithets, those same think pieces, those same phrases as far as freedom and rights could be mimicked, but all you have to do is change, not for the slave, but for the woman, right? Same thing. Noting that white women did not have the right to vote entirely. And I say this because in some states, in some areas of the United States, there were certain groups of women who could vote, but that wasn't the overall theme and it wasn't an overall right. Okay. Just to put it like that way. So there was something I want to give. One of the first movements started through the abolitionists. And another piece is that William Lloyd Garrison, Frederick Douglass, and those newspapers that these gentlemen had also gave rise to this women's right movement speech or speak, because it allowed people, even women, to speak on their condition in these papers that were originally for abolitionists and the fight for freedom of slaves. So I find that interesting how those things intersected. So now you have this establishment of the women's right movement with Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady, Lucretia Mott, right? And you have these conventions going on. But it's funny because even when Susan B. Anthony first came into play and they started having these conventions, she was friends with Harriet Tubman. She introduced Harriet Tubman to one of these conventions. But you know what happened in all this fighting for women's equality? And the number one thing between Black people at that time, whether, especially those who were free, was the right to vote, right? So that was the I guess the how shall I say? Goodness, I got a lost words. That was the
most important, the uniting
theme, you know, that right to vote. Thank you. You know, I get brain clouded. So that was the uniting thing, this right to vote. And so now you have the 14th and 15th Amendment that comes up. So the 14th tells you that, you know, anybody born on this land is considered a citizen. And then the 15th Amendment, which is when things change, is that all citizens, no matter what, you know, their color or whatnot, had the right to vote. The thing is, in law, here it is, the citizen was defined as a man. Very weird. So now you have Black men who has the right to vote, but these wealthy white women don't. So now this is when you have the break. And the break happened different ways. So in order to get support for women's suffrage, it became popular to not speak on the issues of Black women. And one of the things that I learned while researching all this was, you know, how shall I say, our girl Ida B. Wells, they were going to do a march at one of these protests or conventions, and they were asked, some of the well-known Black women's suffrage, to stand in the back or to march in the back. And of course, y'all know Ida B. Wells is not having that. And she just bluntly said, if I can't march with you, I won't march at all. And so that was a time period where now you have kind of a split. Not only was there a split among the white suffrage women, because now it became the educated suffragist movement. And that happened around the Seneca Falls convention. So now you have this split between, you know, those affluent white women and the poor white women and Black women. Because if you was a poor white woman, that was the same thing as being a Black woman. So now Black women have to find their way in this whole women's suffrage or this feminist movement. And we can say, without a shadow of a doubt, that Black feminism had to start around 1930s with Anna Julia Cooper. I mention her all the time. I absolutely love her. Ida B. Wells was still in that. You got Nanny Helen Burroughs. Now, these women were part of the original suffrage movement, but once they realized that that suffrage movement was not accounting for their particular conditions, and it was actually pushing away, we had to find a way, because again, remember that right to vote. That was the most important thing. Fannie Lou Hamer, she realized that the right to vote could change our lives in the best way possible. And because of this Black feminist movement, and because of not only was it about gender for Black women, but it was also about our race. And now you have these ideas of intersectionality. And we're just, and what I want to remind you all, we're just going to the surface, right? Because I think later on, I think we've decided, and I'm saying that because we're going to work on them, but we've decided to maybe have a monthly session on speaking on these issues, and then we'll pick them one by one and go in depth. But so people can get a picture, and maybe this is my way of redeeming myself because I didn't support Miss Tiffany or CK Danielle when they did that show because I was so anti-feminist. But I have to say this, without any of that, whether it was split or not, without the women's suffrage movement and all of that happening, like, we wouldn't be where we are today, even as Black women. Like, you needed all those things to take place. You needed all those circumstances to accumulate to what it is today. So, and still I have to give credit to Susan B. Anthony. Um, and those other women who started the suffrage movement, because it gave a rise to what our existence as women are today, though we're not all the way there, and though it seems we're going backwards. And I'll repeat, Roe versus Wade overturned. We're better than where we were. And I think as time move on, the conditions or the things that we're fighting for changes, right? So yeah, and one more piece, like, so when we talk about feminism, women's suffrage, womanism, it does not leave out the men. That's why I spoke on William Lloyd Garrison and Frederick Douglass earlier. But also I have to introduce W.E.B. Du Bois, because before Alice Walker or Kimberly Crenshaw thought of this intersectionality, he actually wrote about it, wrote about class and gender, and race, and how those things can affect one's reality, one's existence, before Kimberly Crenshaw solidified the definition of intersectionality. So, you know, these think pieces were already there. They just had to be solidified. They had to be defined accurately. But though we've come a long way, we still have a lot of work to do. Yeah, and I think I'll end there unless anybody has any questions. And I'm sure we're going to share the link to the chat if you have a few questions. But just understand, this fight is not over, and it took a lot of things to get to where we are, and we're just going to continue to go. We're going to continue to move mountains, to shake the ground.
I just want to say, Sister Juju,
Mm-hmm.
if you was making up for not being there a couple years ago, you did that. You did a great job of
Thank you,
of
sis.
just giving some basic background information. Right. Because the movement, it still carries like this dark cloud in certain spaces for some reason. And what we have to do as pseudo killers is we have to dead that, right?
Yeah.
The pseudoisms around feminism movement, and the womanism aspect of it, and we're all women. At the end of the day, all of us enjoy the right to vote. All of us enjoy the right to be able to have our own bank accounts, right?
Right.
We all enjoy that. It has nothing to do with our race. We're women. Yeah. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Keep going. Keep building.
Simple stuff. So I want to give Black Panther and Tiffany an opportunity just to offer any feedback on what Juju just presented. So if we go to the next segment.
Well, bravo, Juju. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Just talked about that was great. But I guess because I was brought up in the age where it was still black and white, because I'm telling you, my birth certificate say I'm colored. And it's just so hard to not talk about personal struggles or the struggles I saw my parents go through or my grandmother go through. And I mean, where it was land taken from us and everything. And women fighting every day to support their man and what he was about and what he was doing, struggling to take care of everything, but still have no rights. I mean, a man walked by, especially a white man walked by, you had to get up next to the building, get out their way, because you don't know where they're going. But I think women's struggles have gotten better, a whole lot better. And but we, like you said, Juju, we still have a long way to go, because the respect is still not there, and the wages and all that stuff. You know, women are still getting paid less in a lot of jobs.
Right.
They really don't get a lot of. We really don't get a lot of recognition for accomplishments like men do. But I'm saying, let's just. I mean, you gotta have faith to keep going. Just the strength to go through all this. It's crazy out there. That's it. Miss French, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
So I'm not gonna say too much. First, I want to say that Juju did a good job. I like how she presented, put the presentation out there. I do have my disagreements about the feminist movement, but like I said, I'm not going to go in all the way. However, my position, I'd rather stand on womanism, Africana womanism at that, because this is me. I'm more of a person that believes in focusing on the culture, like focus on the community aspect of it. But I do respect the things that the feminist movement have done. And I do appreciate certain things that was taking place. And not all Black feminists are, have like this anti mindset, you know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to, the males or whatnot. So,
Right.
there was, great feminists out there, good feminists. And one of them is Bell Hooks, the late
Right.
Bell Hooks. So, and I respect her words. I respect what she wrote. She wrote about, not only gender but also race issue and whatnot. But for me, I just rather, stick with Africana womanism, because to me it make a lot more sense, and it's something that I feel like it's more relatable, and something that I feel more closer to. But I do, respect what the feminist movement have done, what I'm saying, and in the beginning, as far as like NOW organization, which stands for National Organization for Women, that gave more women the opportunity to actually get into the workforce and not
Right.
just deal with the pink collar job, but be able to work in variety of fields. So that I do really respect that, which brought about the concept of being part of the EEOC, which is Equal Employment Opportunity
Right.
Commission, which protects women right in the workforce, you know what I mean? So although there's still some things that's going on as far as like sexual harassment and of course, racism, but women have more opportunity to be able to, go to, corporate or go to a union or whatnot and
Correct.
be able to address those issues. So that I can give credit to, but like I said, I have my disagreements. It'll be a lot to go into, but I'll just leave it at that.
We're gonna go into it on another show. You feel me?
Yeah, it's a lot
Of
to go
course.
into.
We're gonna battle that out, right?
We're gonna battle it out
Like
Especially when
because,
you're talking
because I'm gonna do something that that we often do when we get to like this juggernaut space. Like I want to share my screen so we can get the definition of feminism.
I mean,
Let's
okay,
get the
that's cool.
definition.
That's cool.
Share my screen and there, because that's why I think there's such a miss, like this cloud lingering. Because if we just, is my screen sharing?
You're good.
All right, great. Because if we just get to the root of what it is, not individuals who are bad characters. We're not talking about the bad behavior individuals. We're just talking about the fundamental purpose of the movement itself. Is the theory of supporting the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. I don't know how that can conflict with most women anyway.
Right.
And then the second one, it says the organized activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. Now, in anything, you're going to have extremes. You're going to have extremes way left, extremes way right. And then you're going to have those people that kind of sit there in the middle. And so we all get to decide where we want to be. But by calling ourselves feminists or womanists or both, we're not saying that shouldn't be an automatic thing where, well, they don't like men. That is wild. That's extreme, and it has nothing to do with feminism. I just wanted to say that. But again, we'll get into those discussions on later shows to come. But I do want to go into my segment of this.
Okay, I just want to say something real quick.
Hold on, we're gonna
just to clear that up, all right? Because I don't want you to think that I'm saying that all feminists don't like men or anything like that.
I didn't say that.
Well, I just want to clear that up. That's all. I just want to clear that. I'm not saying that, but it's just, I'm just saying there's just certain things that I disagree with, and that's all. So
we'll get to the rights and the liberties of what we should have that you might disagree with on the next show.
Yeah, next show we're gonna get into.
I think it's important in this community to do that, to kind of say that, because there's still that disdain. That's why we had such an issue when we did the show 2 years ago. I mean, it was crazy, because of misconceptions.
Yeah, the men had so much to say about women. It was weird.
I mean, they gonna say that anyhow. You know what I'm saying? They gonna say that, even especially if you're on the path of knowledge, they're going to have their views. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna try to challenge you or try to pick at you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're a woman. So, I mean, that's typical behavior. I mean, not saying that all men do it, but certain ones, they do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know, maybe they feel like they have something to prove, or maybe they feel some kind of way about women. Maybe they have this old traditional mindset about women being knowledgeable or, doing their own thing, whatever. But yeah, that comes with the territory. So it's like,
it was wild. But I'm gonna continue. And also, Gina, if you're watching, I'm gonna present some of your information. So we did go over the definition of what feminism is, and I kind of want this part to be kind of interactive. So I'm going to share my screen again, because we like to also utilize ChatGPT for further reference on things. All righty. And so I asked, how is feminism defined? Feminism is broadly defined as the belief and advocacy in the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. This encompasses organized activity focused on women's rights and interests. Originating in the late 18th century in Europe, I'm sure there's others that will have other things to say about that. ChatGPT isn't 100% perfect. I hear my friend Danielle right now. Okay, originating in late 18th century Europe, feminism has evolved through various waves and movements aimed at challenging gender stereotypes and advocating for equal opportunities and outcomes for women. This includes campaigns for the right to vote, work, earn equal pay, own property, receive education, and enjoy reproductive rights, among other issues. Feminism also addresses societal changes for women's rights, particularly in the West, and promotes the understanding of gender inequality through feminist theory. All right. Feminist definitions capture, feminism definition captures its core essence as a range of social political movements and ideologies that strive for the equality of the sexes in all spheres of life. It critiques society norms that prioritize male perspectives and seeks to remedy injustices faced by women. Feminist movements have historically campaigned for various rights for women, such as suffrage, legal equality, the protection against violence, and contributing to a significant societal changes. Is there any feedback on what I just shared? I want to stop before I go to anything else.
Not for me.
Okay. So this is something that Gina shared with us, and it's the 20 top issues that we're still facing. Let me get this. Stop sharing. I don't know how. If I change my screen, does it go with the screen I'm with, Juju? Or do I need to reshare the screen?
I think you need to reshare it.
Okay, cool. So with all that said and done, there's still some things that we are dealing with. Now, I don't want to subscribe. Of course, I can't find. Okay, there we go. So this is from the Human Rights Careers page. And it's talking about the 20 issues women are facing today. Okay? Unequal pay. So unequal pay is still something that women are facing today. And this is not just women in the US. These are worldwide issues. Racial injustice,
Correct.
gender-based violence, inequity in healthcare, threats to reproductive rights, lack of education, food insecurity, climate change, unequal political representation, discriminatory social institutions, human trafficking. Human trafficking has been going on for, I don't want to say forever, but it's been going on for a long, long, long time. Limited freedom of movement, threats during migration. And, you know, us here in the US are experiencing a heightened amount of migrants coming from Mexico, Venezuela, and you know, some of the migrants are coming from Africa, but they're all coming through the southern border. So some of the stories that we're hearing, unfortunately, is women are coming through, going through this passage, they're being sexually violated.
Right.
So that's something that's happening to these women as they're trying to get to somewhere better for themselves. Discrimination based on disability, poor mental health, the digital divide, online harassment, unpaid labor, inadequate maternal health care, and period poverty. And so that might sound odd to us in the West, but what would period poverty be? Some parts of the world, women don't have access to, I guess, adequate sanitary care to carry out their cycles in the most healthy way.
Correct.
Right? So yeah, so what is your feedback on that, ladies, on some of those things I just mentioned about the things that we're still dealing with?
Sometimes I be spacing out, but did it have anything about well, reproductive rights, I think, is one of the most important things, right? And I think so I'm gonna share something real quick, Miss Tiffany. So one of the first books I ever read in its entirety, believe it or not, was by Alice Walker. The book was Possessing the Secret of Joy. I read that as a young, like, coming out of adolescence into my teenage years.
I think I
Right?
read that too. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. And when I say that, you know, I hate to say this, but it's true. Like, I'm not an avid reader, and most people think that, but that's not really me. This is definitely a book that kept my attention, you know, and I cried. I felt so much emotion, and it led me to a world that I didn't know existed.
Can you like give us the premise? Because I forgot, but I
Yeah,
did read that book years ago.
Possessing the Secret of Joy. That's why I was asked. Is one of
Was
the
it
things on
about
the list.
female mutilation?
Yes, it's about
Yeah,
female mutilation.
yeah, genital mutilation, right?
Right. In some of these cultures, particularly in Africa, but in other places. And a lot of times these cultures are governed by religion, laws, views, ideology, things like that.
Right.
So, and if you allow me, Miss Tiffany, later on, I want to give you all some of the international feminist, womanist, Africana womanist activists, because I think they all fall into that. And a lot of these women, especially on the continent of Africa in their respective countries, are dealing with that. But also in some of the other areas that, you know, that practice Islam, but in some of the more, I guess, how you say, radical forms and different things like that. But that's what it was about. It was about female mutilation. It gave the story. It was very explicit. It was very colorful. It was very clear. And I started to do research on that and understand the implications. So yeah, not only reproductive rights, but also to I think that's one of the major problems that's still persisting. I don't think it's as much because, you know, these women in these respective countries have been advocating against female mutilation for a long time. So more awareness is brought to it. And it's not so much the mutilation, it's the other things that they do inside of that that causes a risk to a woman's health and to their life.
Their life.
And I
Health,
don't
their
want to,
life, their ability to have pleasure. When they do marry, it's
yeah,
it's all ripped away.
yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't want to get explicit because I don't want to make y'all cringe because
Right.
thinking about it.
Well, I know about that stuff you talking about. I seen this movie called Mulade.
Yeah.
It was a movie that was based in Senegal, and I forgot the gentleman's name, but he passed away back in 2007. But when I first saw that movie, it goes into female genital mutilation.
Hmm.
When I first seen that movie, it was just like it was very cringy. And I mean,
Yes.
especially when you talk about little girls and
Yes.
how the whole idea was, but eventually they made it illegal. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's like in certain countries they still practice it, but it's
Hmm.
more so like if the woman choose to go through that process
Sure.
of
Hmm.
yeah, but if she doesn't want to, then you cannot force her to do so. But yeah,
Yeah.
either way, it just it was very heartbreaking. It was
Yeah. Have
disgusting.
your legs
I
crossed the
cringed.
whole time you watching that. Like, but
We
so
have to do the
yeah,
show on that just another time.
I don't. Yeah, we will get deep in those who want to, really know what that's like. So I feel like you got to really feel things to understand them, you know, and not to desensitize people, so they really have a full understanding. Possessing the secret of joy, like I I felt that. You feel me? I felt that. Um, but if you allow me a moment, I want to read to the audience because we often think about women's rights, suffrage, feminist movement to be this American thing. It's an international thing. So as the suffrage movement was going on here, you had some things going on in England, okay, and you've had women activism going on around the world for as long as we really can remember. There's always been someone going for that. I mean, I could think of Hatshepsut, like, she's
Right.
an Egyptian pharaoh. But
Right. We can talk about Nzinga.
exactly, exactly. You funny. I wasn't even I say I was trying to play nice.
I'm just
No,
saying. Didn't like
yeah, I know that's the trigger. The thing could be triggering them, right?
she
But
did that thing.
she did her
Anyway.
thing. But there's some. So I'm gonna read some individuals that y'all may want to look up, and of course, y'all know I'm always going to give you a description box, and I filled it with a lot of sources, and I filled it with a lot of hashtags. And I did that because you can literally press on the name, and if there's some information on YouTube or any other place, it'll take you there, right? And this is also for men that have women in their family, young, um, not necessarily young children, but young ladies, that they're that that they are fathers to or whatnot. So you have an understanding. But Nawal Sadawi, actually an Egyptian feminist writer, activist, and physician, known for her outspoken advocacy for women's rights in the Arab world. That's important. You got um, Chimanda. So y'all forgive me with these names, okay? Don't play with me. I'm sorry.
We got you.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, a Nigerian writer and feminist whose work often explores themes of gender, race, and identity. Gloria E. Anazaldua, which is a Chicana feminist scholar, writer, and activist known for influential work on intersectionality, because that's not limited to just Black women. I want y'all to know that. It includes Black women, but it also includes women of color. Okay. Um, intersectionality, cultural theory. I thought that was interesting, and broader land identities. I'm definitely going to research her, right? Uh, Vandana Shiva, an Indian scholar, environmental activist, and ecofeminist who advocates for sustainable agriculture, women's rights, and social justice. Wangari Maathai, Kenyan environmentalist, political activist, and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, known for her work in environmental conservation and women's empowerment. And the last one, Ama Ado, a Ghanaian author, playwright, and feminist, known for her literary works that explore issues of gender, culture, and identity. So I thought that was an important piece to share and let people know that this is just not limited to American women, Westernized women, things like that, that this is an issue for women worldwide and ongoing. Just like I spoke to Women's History Month, it may have started in that Sonoma County, but it's an international month celebrated worldwide by many different women of many different cultures, colors, creeds, religions, whatever, because, you know, the premise stays the same for all of us, no matter who we are, no matter what tongue we speak. So I think that's important. And we wanted to do this because, again, and I'm gonna keep saying it for the men out there particularly, and the reason why voting is important, right? The reason why being locally actively engaged in politics, because Roe versus Wade is overturned. So right now in America, we're gonna be dealing with a crisis. I mean, we're dealing with it now, but it's gonna get bigger. It's gonna get bigger, and it's gonna be some implications and problems that we shouldn't even have to deal with, because we decided to step backwards. But I'll leave that for another show.
I'm gonna go ahead and share some more information about where we are today and the current state of women's rights worldwide. And I'm going to share again. You want to read that? I'll read it. We should all be feminists. I'm not gonna.
Chimamanda Ngozi
Adichie, a segment of her speech is included in Beyonce's song "Bow Down." Right.
I love that. You go, Danielle.
She gonna hit the link. All right. So, ChatGPT, the current state of women's rights worldwide is facing significant challenges, despite efforts to achieve gender equality and women's empowerment. According to a UN report, an additional USD of 360 billion per year is necessary to reach gender equality goals by 2030. This report highlights the urgent need for action, as over 340 million women and girls are projected to live in extreme poverty by 2030, and the gender gap in leadership positions remains substantial. Alarmingly, women globally will still spend significantly more time on unpaid care and domestic work than men if current trends continue. The World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report 2023 provides a comprehensive benchmark of gender parity across 4 key dimensions: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. It shows that despite ongoing efforts, significant gaps remain. Research also shows that women's leadership positively impacts bipartisanship, equality, stability, and social welfare. Studies indicate that women in leadership roles are more likely to advocate for policies that support social welfare, including increased expenditure on education and healthcare, which can lead to lower child and infant mortality rates. However, a global backlash against women's rights is evident in many countries. With rights being rolled back and anti-feminist rhetoric and policies gaining ground, it's estimated that it could take another 286 years to close the global gender gap in legal protections for women and girls. Examples of this backlash include restrictions on women's education and employment by the Taliban in Afghanistan, censorship and punishment of feminists in China, anti-women's rights activism in Poland, increasing restrictions on reproductive rights in the United States, and efforts to roll back gender equality initiatives in South Korea. In current regions, women and girls are disproportionately affected. For instance, in Iran, the government has reversed gains made by women's rights movement and has been repressing protests with arrest and violence. In Gaza, women face significant humanitarian and security risks with concerning numbers of casualties and health hazards, especially among pregnant women. This overview underlines the complexity of women's rights issues worldwide, demonstrating both the progress made and the considerable challenges that remain. To improve the state of women's rights, concerted efforts from governments, organizations, and individuals are crucial, with a focus on empowerment, legal protections, and inclusion in leadership and decision-making processes. I yield.
Yeah, I wish we had a soundboard. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, bam,
Come
bam.
on, Danielle. We gotta drop the link?
I did once, but I'll do it again. I wanted you to read that comment though, because it is a
Okay.
correction on what I said that I might not have been privy to, but Danielle is definitely
Sounds
on
like
it.
an updated. Yeah, but well, she'll share when she comes up. She works
Okay.
in the specific spaces that she's gonna
Deal
be
with
up to date on certain things.
Correct. So it's called female cutting. We'll let her go into that, and I
Understand that.
want to follow suit though. But yeah, please look at Danielle's comments in the chat because she's dropping some good stuff. But there was a question. Hey, beautiful.
Oh, sure, she
Be in
can.
the building. And I'm on the panel with her this time. I ain't tripping like before. Yo, I didn't go on the panel, and I had to, man, I regretted it because it was like,
crow, sis. Did you have to eat crow? What you had to
I
do?
had to, because I was like, why? You feel me? Because, I was riding in the car with the same dudes who did all that after the show. And I was like, okay, I might not agree, but dang, y'all really did too much. I wasn't even doing that much. So yeah, my apologies, Danielle. I feel like I owe that to you. See, wherever you are, CK, I apologize. Miss Tiffany, I apologize. You got to stick together. Yeah, I had to do better. Here's a question though. I wanted us to get into this, and maybe we can answer it. But it's my question would be: is intersectionality good for Black women, and is it good for Black people as a whole? Because the majority of Black men wealth is still invested in Black families. So I would answer that by saying that.
I think we all get a stab at that one. Go ahead first, Juju.
I was going to say it don't really
look at it.
Intersectionality, like I said, when you read Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois, it's not anywhere of a separation. So what is it? It's saying that not only is there a gender problem, but Black women have to deal with race also, and those implications as far as women's rights. Okay, we have two things against us. We're not just women, but we're Black women.
So we can see it, because I don't want to.
Go ahead.
Because okay, go ahead, continue. I just want to make sure I don't misconstrue anything.
What are you saying? No, I'm just saying that. So intersectionality was a piece added on to whether you want to talk about feminism or womanism. Okay, I mean it can be on both, and it speaks to Black women because we're not only dealing with a race issue. And this is a social problem, y'all, because we know we serial killers and we like to have them scientific conversations, but we're having a social one. So we're not going to be last, but dealing with the race issue and dealing with the gender issue. So it's saying that we have at those intersection of those two things, our issues are a little bit more compounded. That's all that the intersectionality piece really means.
And can I say something?
Go right ahead.
Okay, I'm kind of like tripping off this part where it says because the majority of Black men's wealth is still invested in Black families.
Think about it now. You might want to hold it for another show.
How much wealth are we talking about? That's what I want to know. How much wealth? How much wealth are we talking about?
Oh,
because
boy.
last time I read an article that said that it would take about 223 years for Black families, as far as wealth is concerned, to catch up with their white counterpart. So
Right.
I'm trying to figure out what wealth are you talking about? Because those that are wealthy, they represent that small percentage in our community. So I'm trying to figure out. I'm just trying to figure this out.
We are
That kind of puzzle me.
we are too. But yeah, so the first part of the question, of course, intersectionality is good for Black women. Intersectionality is good for any marginalized groups. That's how they get things accomplished, and that's how they get things pushed through. So I wanna give Danielle a time to. I think after the thing I read about where we are now in the world, she thought that was a good time for her to come in. So
Yeah.
welcome Danielle back to the Pseudo Killer.
Thank you for
Hey,
having
Danielle.
me. Yes, happy to be here. And just to touch on the last question, it's not of whether intersectionality is good or bad. It's just the reality is that Black women face challenges being women and Black. It's more of an analytical tool. So if the United States is talking about mother and infant mortality, and we're looking at the trends of American women in general, when we look really closer and bring that race lens in, we see that Black women and children are significantly more impacted, and that Black women are dying when giving birth, and that
Right.
racism contributes to that, and sexism attributes to that. We can look at other aspects of reproductive justice, and we see how there's absolutely not a whole lot of research going into fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS. Guess what? These are all conditions that Black women are disproportionately impacted by. So
Correct.
intersectionality is just merely an analytical tool. And is it good for the Black community? Of course, because could you imagine us advocating on issues impacting Black people, but not talking about motherhood mortality, not talking about gender-based violence, not talking about the pay gap, et cetera, et cetera. It's like how somebody said, in some pro-Black spaces, what it sounds like is Black equals male, female equals white. And we're completely erased from the picture in terms of what we're fighting for advocacy.
Can
But
you say
what I
that again? Please say that again.
yes, and I wish I could get the person who said this, but what I have noticed in many pro-Black spaces, Black equals male. Because let's talk about it, we're not talking about the issues impacting a lot of Black women. The racism that Black women face, at times it's not talked about. And then on the other hand, female or feminism is white. And they're not talking about the racial issues that we're dealing with. Right? So both sides at times X us out.
Right.
So what I was gonna say is there's and thank you, Tiffany, for breaking down the Africana womanism. And
I
that
tried. It's a lot, so I just try to break
yeah,
down. Like I have the books actually, so
yes, and I think I saw one of her videos on YouTube. But we have so many terms, and then we have so many terms and words that are used to describe, us ensuring that the humanity and value of women is the same across the board. But for me, feminism does not start with white women suffragists. For me,
Correct.
feminism is ancient. It's ancient African.
It is.
We go back to our ancestors who saw and they were explicit about man and woman is equal. Not woman is some little rib helpmate. When you actually go into the Hebrew, the term is ezer kenegdo, and it's doesn't mean helpmate, but folks can look that up themselves. So, but
Tell us what it means. You don't want to tell us what it means?
oh well, and I don't want to get it wrong, but it actually
Okay.
references equal in power.
Wow. I've actually heard that. This one white
Yeah,
evangelist, she spoke on the helpmate. Doesn't mean that they're submissive, but they're equal. Okay, go in. I'm gonna shut up.
equal in power,
Yeah.
also warrior.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when King James got a hold of the Bible, he took that translation and he did what he wanted to do with it. He made it all colorful, and that's the translation of the Bible that Black folk just can't seem to let go.
Mm.
Oh,
I love to say that. I want to be his helpmate.
help me. They don't say help me. They say help me.
Help me, help mate, the help.
The help. Translation.
The help.
The
help.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Scared prodigals in the building.
Yeah, so these are principles that are in our ancient African spirituality, our ancient African cultures. So, for me, I have no qualms. All these modern terms that we have are neither here nor there. I call myself a feminist, womanist, Africana womanist.
Mm-hmm.
I incorporate it all. I'm just very clear about the need for us as women to speak up about what we need.
Yeah.
And I want to mention that, and I want to thank you guys for actually taking the global approach in this discussion today.
Yeah.
I think because of our experiences as Black women, and because we have been raised to see Black as male, and because we have been told all of our lives to put race first, and then we're dealing with racism from white women.
Right.
All of this contributes to us being skeptical, or I don't know about that female feminist stuff. I don't know about that. And I think that it's important for us to get away from that, to move past that, and to recognize the things that we're impacted by on a daily basis as Black women, and that we have every right and we should speak up about the things impacting us, because you know what? We're dying in cases where we don't need to be dying. We're being hurt in cases where we don't need to be hurt, and we're struggling in cases where we don't need to be struggling. So I just want to encourage us that I understand all the hesitations around this topic. But I would encourage sisters to just lean into that, and to take the mantle of our ancestors who were unapologetically pro-woman, and recognize the value of women and believe that women and men were equal. So if you want to skip all this American...
Oh, you preaching to the choir, because I am pro-woman.
Yes. At the end of the day, I am pro-woman. That's to me, when you talk about feminism, that's all it is. I'm pro-woman, because guess what? That's what I am.
Right.
And if I love myself, the first part of practicing self-love is being clear on who I am and speaking up.
Absolutely.
If I'm being mistreated, or if my group is being mistreated. And I just wanted to encourage sisters on that journey, is to just lean into that. And if it can help you, just ignore all this American history stuff and go to our African ancestral roots, where they're very clear about this topic. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and this is just an example of, I think, for us to really look at feminism and race and intersectionality. There is the Women's War, which took place in Igbo land, Nigeria. And this was in the 1920s. So I think, as y'all said, when things were going on with women in the United States, it was actually stuff going on with women globally. But so one thing about the Igbo people is they're one of the ancient African civilizations that had democratic power. So they were practicing democracy before the white man came in, because everyone says the white man did not invent democracy. Okay, Igbos were already practicing this. And not only that, women had a role, had very powerful roles in society, and they had a women's group, and then they had the men's group. And that both had equal power in their democratic process. And at times, this is within their culture. Within their culture, if the women disliked one of the decisions that a male leader made, they had this protest thing where they would go sit outside his house and they would chant and sing and basically protest until he changed his decision. That's something that they did before the white man came in. Okay, so what happened when the white man came in? White man came in and completely disregarded this system and said, well, where we from, women ain't got no rights. So this little y'all allowing women to play a role in democracy, yeah, that's over. That's over. We're not even checking for the women. We're only operating through the men. Okay, so that was kind of like, oh, so obviously they're being subjugated. Don't nobody want to be subjugated. But what they did is they took out the rights of the women. The white man came in and took out the rights of African women. Then they said, because during colonialism, they're extracting, they're trying to pull out all the money, all the resources of the area that they have conquered. So then, now back in the day, women led the marketplace. Women led the marketplace. So when folks are over here talking about, all this traditional family, whose traditional family are you talking about? Because in a lot of ancient African cultures, women ruled the marketplace. So, but that's another topic. So the women ruled the marketplace. So the colonizers said, we're going to tax the women. We're going to tax the women and we're going to take their money to the Queen of England. Okay. And so they went through the male chiefs to orchestrate this. And when it came back, the whoever the leadership was came back to the women and said, y'all got to start paying taxes. They said, the hell we ain't. And they started to protest. They protested the male leader that went along with the colonizer and going along with the tax. So they protested. And they protested. I think they also burned down some colonial buildings. Since it was hot, okay? They burned down some colonial buildings. Next thing you know, colonizers rolling through with the guns, and then even has some of their men there too. And they are shooting and killing the women, and they're fighting. And these women are fighting back, and they don't have the guns that the colonizer has. That was the woman's war in Igbo land, Nigeria. And I think they said over 3,000 women were killed. And I think it was also some women from Calabar. It wasn't just Igbo land, but it was just different parts where this tax revolt was going down. But this was a primary, I always think it view this as like a study case of here you had Africans practicing just living their lives, and then you have this disruption from the colonizer, and the colonizer says, actually, no, woman, you shouldn't have that many rights. And then under this colonial subjugation, having the men implement this tax rule on the women. What is this, like a divide and conquer? But the women were primarily fighting the colonial powers, and there were men that supported that fight as well. So it wasn't like straight up black and white. There was definitely some gray there. But it just shows you one of these things. So I often think about, we have to, and I want to encourage our brothers to really think about, what does it look like in our context when the colonizer comes in and disrupts the relationship with black women and black men in our current day context? And I'm hearing all this talk about traditional values, traditional family. Whose traditional family? When you look at that model, and then you hear people talking about, oh, this is what it means to be feminine, this is what it means to be masculine, according to whose values? When we look at this all goes back to white European gender roles, and this all goes back to white ideas of the traditional family. But now, even in pro-black spaces, you have our brothers picking those European ideas up and beating us in the head over with it. So,
Well,
with our pro-black brothers, I really want to encourage y'all to interrogate, where are you getting your ideas on gender norms from? Where are you getting your ideas on the traditional family from? And if I can go and look up the European Victorian philosophers, and they are saying verbatim what you are saying, that's the issue. And if I can look at our ancient African philosophers and they're saying something different from what you're saying, that's an issue. So that's all I'm saying.
Thank you, sis. I will say this. You know,
Shut it down.
Mr. Uncle West is listening, right? You know he's tuned in, so
Yeah.
I already know.
Don't pay him no mind, girl. We're not scared of him.
One of the things that you said, Danielle, I had to give you some pushback on. He would be better equipped because he studies a lot of these historical things. Is that, you know, maybe in the story that you gave in the context of that particular experience, maybe the women had a certain micro of power comparable to the men, but that wasn't necessarily the thing everywhere on the continent, right? Otherwise, in Zinga,
Right. Well,
hold on.
But I didn't say it was. I just want to say
good. I'm saying that because I don't want people
thing.
Okay, good. Because sometimes when people hear it in these spaces, they'll take that to mean, oh, you see, it ain't our fault that we're like this because it's the white man that made us sexist and this, that, and the other, as if that's not something that unfortunately we were dealing with, period. Because I'll just bring up that example of women rulers. It wasn't an easy role for them, and they had to fight their way through a lot of men to rule. But you know, if he jumps on, he can elaborate on that. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. But thank you.
Yes,
beautiful.
Add on one last thing, and y'all can Google this story. But to your point, and it's not to say that sexism never existed in ancient Africa. It sure did. It did. Mm-hmm. But we also still have a lot of resources from our ancestors that uplift the equal value of women. It's a plethora of resources there. And to give you an example of even of how we know it existed, if you look at one of the creation narratives of the Yoruba people, when Olodumare set the Orisha to create the world, and you had the Oshun was one of the only female Orisha who was involved in the group to create the world, because you know the power of one female Orisha does add up to about like 16 male Orisha. So so, but nevertheless, the male Orisha left Oshun out, and the world crumbled. Mm-hmm. Think about that. The fact that is in a creation narrative. Now, I'm someone who left Christianity, went to African spirituality. Like, I believe in all that sexism from Christianity, and I'm coming over to African spirituality where we got the African female deities. And I heard that story. I was like,
crush.
You
cried.
So yes, it did exist. Mm-hmm. Yet and still, there is a plethora of resources from our ancestral traditions that affirm our humanity as women.
Thank you. I
think that's beautiful.
That was beautiful. Any feedback? Anybody else that wants to hit the link? I mean, anybody wants any smoke? I mean, I guess we can entertain a few minutes of smoke if y'all want it. If you want it, but you got to hit the link. Are y'all?
Satan is not allowed to hit the link, but everybody else is.
Who ain't allowed? Who's not allowed, Juju?
Satan.
Who's Satan? Satan, aka who?
You know, you remember last year I told him not to date Satan.
Call him by his name, sis. Call him by his name.
Sheffrin is not allowed to hit this link today.
And if he does hit the link,
you're gonna tear you up.
We got you. We got that smoke for you today,
We got that smoke.
You know, feeling
it is.
Go ahead and leave.
A few more minutes. It is hitting 7 o'clock, but I felt like if no one does hit the link, I did put it in the chat. There's no more questions. If y'all want to say our ending pieces, I feel like it would be appropriate to end it with the iconic. And I'm gonna shout you out, Brass. I appreciate that. I actually thought about it, but there's a background story to that iconic "I am a woman" speech, because I actually did it in high school. and it got me lots of recognition by some of the
I want
community leaders. Go ahead, Miss Tiffany. Excuse
okay,
me.
I wanted to say something. So I wanted to give a shout out to Danielle for like, breaking down the history and all that. Like that is great. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like I really I think that you did a great job, breaking down the history. Now, the one thing I have a minor disagree with what you said, as far as like traditional family and as far as like, the concept of traditional male and female. I mean, this is where we have to think about rite of passage. Now, this is where the rite of passage come in, because I mean, of course, by us living in the Western society, I mean, of course, excuse me, of course, those ideas going to be based on some of the European concept, because that's what we know. You know what I'm saying? We don't know a lot about African tradition or African spirituality, only because we ain't never really grew up in the African culture per se. But it would be good to incorporate African ideology into our, in our lives, so that way we can be able to go about giving rite of passage. That's just all I wanted to say. But overall, I think it was great. I think you did a great job.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna have a
so
show. We're gonna
I
get
give you
into it
credit
some
for that.
more. Trust me, we're gonna have
Yeah,
time to spar each other on different things. Okay.
yeah.
That's why I said this is not only to commemorate International Women's History Month. I'll just add them all, but I think we want to start like focusing on us and some of the issues that we face, because I feel like in these spaces women can get drowned out, and we see it every day. Like I think I know too much. I mean, that's because that particular man feels intimidated, right? Because I definitely don't feel that way at all. You feel me? And people who know me know. So we get drowned out, and people want to act funny. So it's good to highlight us, highlight our intelligence, our significance in history, and yeah, people can feel how they want to feel. But that, like science don't care about your opinion, about how you feel. People can feel how they
Um,
want.
yeah, facts. Okay, can I show the books real quick before I
Yeah,
step off? Because I gotta step away.
we want to
Go
get ready.
I
ahead.
just want.
She gotta
Okay,
go. Go ahead and show your
okay,
books.
then yeah. So I just want to show the books. Um, this book right here by Angela Davis, Women, Race, and Class. I suggest a lot of people read up on it if you get a chance to do so. Africana Womanism by Clenora Hudson Wims. Okay, Africana Womanism. This is one, and then this is another one, which is Africana Womanism Literary Theory by
Mm,
Clenora Hudson Wims.
okay.
A Taste of Power, a Black Woman's Story by Elaine Brown. She share her
Hmm.
experience of what it was like for her to be a Black Panther, and
Right.
her after the Black Panther Party. So, um, and this right here, I believe is very important, because we're dealing with science. Since we're talking about science, it's very
Correct.
important that a lot of women, especially, learn about the reproductive and how, the period operates and whatnot, because we have those who carry out pseudo ideology saying that women are not supposed to be bleeding a certain amount of
Yes.
days,
Look,
or
don't talk about
it's
that.
crazy. It's crazy. But
Crazy.
anyways, this is by Dr. Jen Gunter. The book is called Blood, the Science, Medicine, and Mythology of Menstruation. So I strongly recommend this book. Again, you get into the science to understand about the reproduction and the menstrual cycle, pregnancy, etc. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Miss Tiffany French. And I want to say that last book, we actually found the PDF. So if you're part of the Discord, you can get the PDF version. You feel me? So
Yeah.
that's some of the benefits of our Discord. I want to say, you already know about being in the building, but
All
I
right then.
know.
How you
So
doing, Miss
y'all have
French?
a good one. Peace.
How you doing, Miss
Thank you.
French?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you
All
up
right.
there. You did a great job today. Don't be running because I popped up
She
here. Don't be
running.
running.
She definitely
running.
running.
Oh,
said,
I'm
"I'm
Okay,
gonna
out."
y'all.
start it.
I'm gonna
All
let
right?
y'all go ahead and build because I gotta I gotta
No,
go
she
do
just got
something.
off
So I'm
the
gonna let y'all go
workout.
ahead and build. But thank you for having me on,
You're
Sister
welcome.
Juju. I appreciate it.
You're welcome anytime.
And it's nice to meet you, Danielle and Miss Panther, all of y'all. Y'all have a great one. All right.
Peace.
Thank you.
Peace.
We got
Peace.
Rory in the building. Before I give it to you, Aunt.
I just wanted to speak to everybody though.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
How you doing, Danielle? Shorty?
Doing cool. Good to see you.
What's up, Lisa? What's good?
Hey, God killer.
Miss Tiff, what's up with you? She must be on
Hello,
mute.
hello. Yeah, I was
Miss
muted.
Tiff,
What's up?
how you doing? What's going on, Gigi?
You already know, living my life like it's golden. Living my life like it's golden.
Yeah, I don't want to jump line. Go ahead. You was somebody else came up. I don't want to jump the line.
No, you good. I just want to give. I know you're gonna have a piece with that, Bobby Banger, and I definitely ain't finna cut your bill. But I wanted to let Rory ask his question or say what he have to say. But before you do that, Rory, I'm gonna answer your question. You're the second person that's named Rory too, actually, in my family. Your question was how can we protect you better? And I assume that meant Black women. My answer would be simply by listening. Listen to the women around you. So you'll know what their needs are because we're not homogenous. You feel me? We're not the same. So it'll be different depending on each woman's circumstance. So listening is the first start. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to
Well,
answer his question or give
I
your
think
piece.
attention
I
to
would say,
women are saying also.
are you okay? Let
Okay.
me go really quickly. I would say being an ally, being an ally to the issues that are concerning the women in your community. We need allies. One of the things that we found out a few years ago when we did the show, we were looking up the statistics on women who were being, assaulted in their relationships, abused, and all these other things. And Black women were the ones that had the least amount of allies within their own community.
Yes,
So
that's
we need
important.
our men to be our allies.
Yes. Danielle, you got a piece on that real quick?
Yeah, I just wanted to co-sign about what you said about listening and what Tiffany said about being allies. And listening is when Black women say, hey, we being discriminated against, even if you can't see it, believe it. Okay. And I think the other area is if you see part of being an ally is if you see brothers who are peddling ideas and attitudes that are harmful and contribute to harm against sisters, then to call it out.
Right.
Whether the brothers are implying that women are less than, be like, nah, bruh, our sisters, is equal to us. Because when you start looking at people as less than, that's when violence can start coming into the picture in a major way.
Yeah.
If they're peddling a lot of the nonsense that's really divisive and hurtful that we're hearing all on the podcast, if they're advocating for what they call domestic discipline or, running game on women and all of it, just call it out and be like, nah, bruh, that leads to dissension in our community that harms the sisters. So basically speaking up when you see an injustice or a negative attitude or idea that's harmful to Black women that's being pushed.
I say pay attention to the females. The women have normalcies that they do on a daily basis. And if it's disrupted, something wrong. You can pay attention to facial expression. If that person always speaks to you or something, you'll know something wrong. Just pay attention to what their body language is. And a lot of times, we as women are not as verbal as we should be. But we have body language and facial expressions that, and we as a woman have to stick together, especially Black women, because can't always backbite women. Because I know a lot in my community that is always against the women, women against women, that you got to stick together more too. And that's just the way it is. But that's my 2 cents. Bobby Banger, go ahead now.
Great conversation always is when the sisterhood come together. I appreciate that. It's my thing would be that I don't like to categorize like or say like continental African men and African American men because I think men are men at the end of the day. I think we were forged out of culture, hunter-gatherer culture, and it was hard in those days. So, the teamwork had to be right. It was just certain things women just wouldn't be able to just do. Like their most weakest point would be when they was pregnant. And you would have to, you would have to deal with that. First of all, you got a piece of the workforce down, right? At a certain point, once you didn't had the baby, and you gotta protect that. And there was a lot men had to do. Women were integral parts. The treatment of women, if you read Diop's book, he kind of talks about that the men was like making the decisions. That's even in Diop's book, Civilization of Barbarism, chapter 5. He talks about, those early stages and how we made the choices. And I don't know why that was it. I know we could do a little more reading up on it, but I think today, based off of the fact we're in the Stone Age, we just need to have a meeting with each other and just have a conversation over the choices. I think some men hold those old Stone Age beliefs deeply rooted in us, and it's just going to take some time for us to work through. And I said this before. My daughter told me, she was like, people with privilege don't see their privilege, and so there is a male privilege. And well, that people will say, well, white men got more privilege than us. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, I got to judge you off of who you deal with. And I'm not going to suppose you deal with a black woman. Not going to suppose that. But there's a privilege that men are afforded. And so, when I'm raising my son, I always tell him, treat a person like you want to be treated, right? I don't teach him that it's okay for him to sleep with a lot of different women. The same way, I'm not going to teach my daughter it's okay to sleep with a lot of men. Yeah, there should be relationships built before you reach that phase in that there should be things thought out. You talked about bringing another life forward. But I think, as men, we play a role in a lot of dysfunction because we teach our young boys it's okay to sleep with a lot of women. So for you to actually do that, there has to be a lot of lying going on and a lot of mistreatment going on, a lot of dishonesty going on. And so when you do that type of thing, you put women in a vulnerable position. So, I think it starts with the dads, right? The dads has to raise better sons, and a dad has to, treat his daughter a certain way. I have 3 daughters, and they're important to me, and I love them to death. Okay. And I also have sons, and I love them to death. And so it's the family that's going to raise us at the end of the day. It was important for me to be raised by my aunts, just like my uncles. So, black women are at a disadvantage now based off of the structure, based off we seem to think it's okay for single women. It's actually not, right? So men in the family need to support the women that don't have dads at home. And we could never forget that. And so there's a responsibility we all got to take. And, I'm up for the challenge all day, every day. And I just want to end with this. It's a great day when we can get intelligent women on a panel to have a great discourse. Sometimes y'all voices are drowned out. And it is what it is. And y'all just got to always fight for your voice. No matter how hard us as men fight against you on that, y'all got to keep pushing back. Because at the end of the day, man, hell, it ain't my voice. It's y'all voice.
Why,
So
and that's why
before
that allyship. So men who recognize that, call it out, and you do that. You do that. So
you definitely do. That's
I like that term. I like that. That's real. We
allies,
need to
yeah.
be allies. That's real.
Yeah.
I like that. That was very, very thought provoking. Well put together statement right there. Need to be allies.
and that question is for you on the
Yeah,
screen.
that question's for you, Bobby Finger. I need you to clarify your position, your statements you just made.
Men can't what? Women, what
If
it
you
says, he is saying that women still can't do without. No, what I'm saying is we're in the space age now. And, it's not much things that a woman can't do. Seriously, like that's crazy. So I'm saying you can't bring that same mentality to the table. Women can choose what they want to do. Simple as that. Like, in the workplace, there's not many jobs that women aren't allowed to do no more. So women can do everything that they choose to do. There's always going to be some limitations, right? Just like there's some limitations on what men can do. But at the end of the day, physicality, jobs, thinking, leadership. I was reading some information on how I say men made better leaders. That was the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my life.
Right.
Yeah, that's retarded. That's not even a true statement. But no, women can do anything they choose to do. That's the point I'm making here. That if a woman chooses to do this, then what you gonna say? You can't do it? That's not real. It's not realistic. Not today. You beat them fighting, they shoot the shit out you. I mean, it's a great equalizer. You ain't in the Stone Age. I gotta hit him in the head with the rock. I gotta catch him just right. Yeah, I mean,
no diddy, man. Bobby. No diddy. No.
Can I chime in now?
No
yeah,
diddy.
Go ahead, Rory. Sorry.
No problem. I just wanted to say that I'm under the opinion that the gender divide in the Black community, as opposed to all the other communities, is much wider as far as the feminist ideology. Like, I don't see it as much in other communities, and they seem to get along with their mates or be more team oriented instead of fighting over dominance or traditional values or anything like that. They're more so focused on the family unit, and that is what is. So for them to be like single parent households is more taboo in other cultures. And it seems like in America, you have the rich, like the basketball players and the football players, the actors, the P. Diddy's. They're becoming enormously wealthy while the majority of the Black community is becoming poor. And, so it looks like Black wealth is growing, but it's really just that 1% is growing in leaps and bounds. Per capita, the Black wealth is shrinking drastically.
Hold on, you're going to so many different issues.
Yeah, he running.
So you gotta.
What do you mean running?
No.
So there's 2 points. So before I let everybody talk, can I just have 2 minutes?
You kind of cut me off though, just for the record. You cut me off.
Let everybody talk. You
cut me off. You dove in it.
Okay, forget it, Dan. I'll just you guys go on ahead and enjoy your day. I'll go ahead and let you do your thing.
All righty. Get him out of there quick.
Moving on.
I mean, he did. I was in the middle of talking. He dove in. And then he went on to a long diatribe. He went into the fact that other communities and then tried to act like the feminism thing was an issue. He did that. He ran just in time. I don't know what he was talking. I heard him.
Right, we heard him.
I heard him. Nobody cut that man off. He wanted to run.
Yeah. And so I'll say this. This show was to celebrate the achievements of women around the world.
Right.
Now, when we talk about getting into specifics and we want to spar with each other about our opinions on the reality of things, we're going to give you all that time.
Or the non-reality of things.
The non-reality, right? But today is specifically to celebrate the achievements, the players in the game who started it, who are actively engaged now, and to show all the nuances to that conversation. You feel me? But we can definitely get into the Black family and do that cross comparison, because a lot of times we mess that up. That's not actually true. Okay. So we're gonna go there. We're gonna go there with y'all. We're gonna do it all. And this was an introductory to show you what you all can look forward to. But you already know, Miss Tiffany. It's 7:13. We got depth of expertise coming up. So I think we all, can give our final pieces. And you tell me, Miss Tiffany, Danielle, should we do Aren't I a Woman? Because I definitely got that piece and I absolutely love it.
You can ready to recite it, sis?
Yeah, I was gonna recite it, put a little flavor, a little soul food on it, real quick. You feel me? You feel me? Because
let me go get my African drums.
yeah, girl, the djembe drum. You already know. You feel me? You see what I want?
I would have brushed up my spoken word chops for the show, but next time.
Yo,
any closing remarks for anybody before Juju closes out with a poem?
Close out with a point.
All I want to say was I just encourage everybody to delve into the histories of women and know the point, see how much the struggle was and is. Don't just assume that it's taken care of, because it's not. It's gotten better, a lot better, but it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know back in the day, African ancestors used to put the women on pedestals and acknowledge them, and that's not being done anymore. It's not the I don't know how to put it, but I think y'all understand what I'm saying. Just get in there, understand, delve into the histories of different women, not just the women that you know about, but go in there and there's thousands of women that are in the histories and had struggles, have struggles, but maintaining. And a lot of times, if you look at the females that are going through things and the histories, they have a smile on their face, because we as a woman have learned to keep a smile even though we got tragedy going on. But we need to speak on it, and I just say delve into the history. I appreciate y'all for letting me be a part of this show. Danielle, you did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you did that. Pro woman, all the way. God Killer, I'm pro woman. Tiffany,
yes.
Miss Juju, y'all know I got y'all back.
Love you for that.
24/7.
365.
Hold up, yes, ma'am. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Miss Lisa.
Danielle, put your Cash App link in the private chat here so I can post it in the and Miss Lisa, you can put yours in there. You got a ranch.
Your Cash App. Put it in the chat, Miss Lisa.
Put your Cash App link in there, sis.
But I know how to leave the show and go to the chat without getting off the show. You know, I'm a newbie. Okay.
Okay.
But I'm leaving.
Bobby Banger, you got any closing words?
Oh.
Or Danielle, I'm sorry, Danielle.
Well, I was just going to say, I wanted to co-sign what our sister said about the history. And because I study spirituality, I would also say check out the spiritual side as well, the feminine deities, or just how oftentimes we see the complementary nature of male and feminine divinities. Check that out. Check out the female divinities, what they stood for and what they were about. And, one thing that just really, really inspired me this week, I saw Fatoumata Diawara. She is a singer from Mali. She performed at Sony Hall this week. And this is a genre of music in Mali where they solely focus on women's issues. Now, of course, she's got some love songs in there, but the songs were about women. And she sang in her language of Bambara. She said to bring in the voices of her ancestors. And for me to see this African woman unapologetically stand 10 toes down, singing on behalf of women and advocating for the equal treatment of women globally, it was such an inspiration for me. So I just want to encourage us to continue to lean into that. especially for our sisters who might, you might be feeling some of the hesitancy from the brothers. Disregard that and pour into your own power from within and lean into this rich heritage that we come from.
Beautiful.
I want to say Ashe.
Ashe.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. West.
Oh man, I'm just getting ready for the show. That we got coming up, and that's gonna be a good one. Like I said, I appreciate y'all's show. Hopefully y'all can do this on a more regular basis. And men and women need each other at the end of the day. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't give a damn about what they say. Right? I don't care about all the whatever the hell's. I'm gonna say whatever y'all thinking in y'all head. Men and women need each other, man. It takes two to make the goddamn thing go right.
Mm-hmm.
My last 57 years, I'm simple as that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that before I get in trouble.
There you go.
All right, ladies. So, and gentlemen, excuse me. Sorry, Bobby Benga. I will recite to you now from the illustrious Maya Angelou, Phenomenal Woman. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride in my step, and the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. I walk into a room just as cool as you please. And to a man, the fellows stand or they fall down to their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. And I say, it's the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing of my waist, and the joy in my feet. 'Cause I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say, it's the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breasts, the grace of my style. I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk too loud. When you see me passing it out to make you proud, I say, it's the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hand, the need of my care, 'cause I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. Thank you, y'all. We out of here. See y'all at the next show. We gotta go.
Hey.
Yeah, y'all better wait.
Danielle.
Yes, ma'am. All right. All of us are women, right? All of us are phenomenal. This was a phenomenal show. Thank you, ladies. Miss Tiffany, you already know. Danielle, thank you. That was powerful.
Thank
so
you.
We out of here. Catch us in 10 minutes.